We are the One Story Podcast. We believe in the power of a story. Everyone has a story, and that story is meaningful. Your story can make a difference. Your story can inspire others. Your story is important. At the same time, ultimately, everyone's story is a part of one story, the big God story.
It's not what you said. You're not who you said you were. When are you alone? When will you come back home?
Hello there. We're back. This is the One Story Podcast, episode 7. My name is Drew.
My name is Isaac.
And we're here to do
Live.
this live and in person. We got a special episode for you today.
Yeah, we do.
It is just Isaac and myself. Your favorite kind of episode.
The one you've been waiting for your whole life.
Yeah. So how do we start this one?
First of all, hold on.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
the last couple episodes, with episode 6 with Richard Victorian, we had talked about how we lost the episode 5,
Christian,
and we called episode 6 episode 5.
Yeah.
You know what? We lost it. Our publicist help us get it back.
It was resurrected from the trash.
So that was something to praise God about, because that was we took that one kind of hard, but it only lasted a few hours because the next day we dug it. We were able to find it, and
it worked out great because we kept Christian's episode. That's episode 5, and then we had Richard's episode 6.
And
even though there was some.
Not only that, we got to hear your prophecy.
Oh, about the
Drew's
the
a prophet,
Eagles.
ladies and gentlemen.
Down with the Patriots.
Tom Brady, if you're angry at somebody, I know who to point the finger at.
And what's crazy is that was the first Super Bowl that I think that I've missed. I think in my whole life.
Really?
From what I can remember. I mean, I don't remember.
I think it was the first Super Bowl I've watched all the way through.
I mean, seriously, I watched every Super Bowl, and that was the first one I missed. And I still haven't seen it. I heard it was a great game.
So what happened was those two, we pre-recorded those 2 episodes on the same night because Drew was on a little hiatus. Where were you, Drew?
Well, as we talked about on the first episode, I actually went on that missions trip to Cuba. And that was starting on the 1st of February, and we were there for 10 days. So
Yikes.
The 1st through the 10th.
I'm sure Abby was loving you.
Oh yeah, and that was tough because no cell service. I mean, you can buy special plans, but we decided I wasn't going to do that. No cell service. There was some Wi-Fi that you could pay for at a certain area of the town, and so I was able to. We got some text in, and then my uncle who went with us, he had service, so I was able to talk to Abby. But it was so expensive, I just did it once, But that was definitely
so you
a challenge.
Were completely cut off.
Oh yeah, and let me tell you, that was
the rest of us.
That was I miss my family terribly,
For
Abby
sure.
and Nolan, my little son who's 17 months old. But it was a blessing to little Knowles. It was a blessing to not be plugged in to my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And so anybody, if you have an opportunity to do that, I would suggest it because it's a little, it's liberating.
But tomorrow we're going to try to do that, right?
Oh yeah. At the tree.
So kind of leading up, just to kind of recap on everything leading up to your trip to Cuba. If you didn't listen to our first episode, it was we just kind of went over how this podcast came about, and a lot of it was I had a prophetic word for Drew. I had a vision of Drew teaching over people, and he took that with a grain of salt, of course, and but then Drew called me a couple weeks later and said, "Hey, I'm going on this trip, and my dad says, that I might be speaking."
Mm-hmm.
But what people don't know, which we kind of kept it a secret, is a few weeks. After we already had started the podcast, you had told me. They're like, "Hey, by the way,
it's not going to happen.
I'm not speaking anymore." And we're like, we'll just kind of just forget about that. We won't remind anybody about that. So
both of our faiths just crumbled in that.
I almost quit the podcast. I was like, "Oh, this is
this
obviously came from my pride." And
yeah, so there was a meeting a couple weeks before the trip where So, I mean, this trip in general was just, I mean, it was awesome. It's something I'd never been a part of, and I'm really glad that I got to experience it.
Was that your first mission trip?
Technically, I say yes, but in high school, part of our youth ministry, we went to Mexico and helped build a home
was this?
for a family. I was in high school, so I don't know, it's freshman or sophomore year.
Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you were going to
Remember Chris Kane?
Yeah.
His dad was our youth pastor, and then he had a construction business, and so he knew how to do all that kind of thing. And we went to this. It was a missions trip, and went down there. And
were you going to church? I mean,
yeah,
I knew that you were. I didn't. Were you going like? Tell me about your church life in high school. 'Cause obviously, you kept me out of the loop.
Well, I think it was a double life type deal to where, I mean, because I believed, in God and church and the Bible and all that, but I had one foot in, one foot out.
But what was the foot in? What was your church life?
We went to church every Sunday.
Okay. And what was your involvement? You were a part of the youth group.
Yeah, because I mean that's where you went, Sunday school, and then as you're in high school, you go to the older group, and that was the group.
Did you have like youth group friends?
Yeah.
That went to our school?
Yes and no. I don't remember everyone exactly. We kind of moved churches a little bit after La Mirada Calvary, but
you guys switched churches during high school?
No, we were young. I was younger than that. So we went from La Mirada Calvary to Downey Calvary, which by the way is the group that we went to Cuba with.
Okay.
And then we went to Morning Star for a long time. That's
in Whittier, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Off of Leffingwell.
Okay.
That was a cool church, and there was a church family that we were friends with that went there as well. Mm-hmm. And then we started going to Olive Branch.
And where's that?
I think when I was
that's in La Mirada too.
When I was in high school.
That was around the corner from my high school, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what I found out recently that I didn't know is that you're a PK.
Yes, that's
true. If you don't know, a PK is a preacher's kid.
Pastor's kid, preacher's kid, yeah.
So what did your dad do in the church? And what church was it?
Well, when we were growing up, La Mirada Calvary, he was the associate pastor, assistant pastor. And then when that church kind of had like a split, a falling out, but we left the church before that. And then my dad was just he wasn't as involved as a pastor, but still was pretty involved with the church and,
At all the churches that you went to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was it? I'm just curious. Why the church hopping?
I don't know. You'd have to ask them. My mom and dad.
I'll be calling you later.
I don't, because I don't know.
Okay.
But all the churches were good, and there was friends there that I think was from La Mirada, Calvary, and then that's just kind of how it came about. So I mean, but my high school life was,
you weren't a PK during high school though.
Like he wasn't a pastor.
Yeah.
No, not officially.
But you guys went to church consistently every Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the most part.
Okay.
Here and there. So what were we talking about? Cuba, right?
Yeah. Well, I was just asking about we're just kind of leading up to that just a little bit. I'm just getting some background on
so
why this trip was so significant.
So, but back to, we had this meeting, and the group that was going to be going to Cuba, there's going to be like 70. It ended up being like 72 of us from here, but it was from Downey Calvary. There was some people from Texas, from the Houston area, from Florida.
All Calvary Chapel?
Boca Raton, primarily, but there was other churches, I think. But I think it was all kind of tied by Calvary Chapel at some way or form. Mm-hmm. A church in Merida, I think that's how you say Merida,
where's that?
Mexico, in the Yucatan. That's the capital city of the Yucatan.
I want to go visit there.
I know. We're going to. I want to. And then, so all over, then we all kind of ended up meeting in Cuba. But before that, there was supposed to be a group of youth leaders, or I don't know exactly who was supposed to go, and then they ended up not going to the trip. So the whole plans for the youth, which I had told you about, or we thought was going to happen, was this off-site youth camp. That's where I was going to speak at.
And that's where my prophetic word was going to.
That's what we were thinking. Yeah, I mean, we don't know for sure what exactly you saw and where I was, but
And that's what I had told you afterwards when I was trying to save face. I was like, you know what, Drew? It just is.
I think it's in a couple years.
I never gave you a timeline, but I started thinking, oh, maybe this wasn't it. But I still had faith that.
But there was still something there that got us to this point of doing a podcast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I don't think I brought that up, though. Like, when we did this and me and Drew were planning this out and we were kind of just laying it out how it was going to look like, I told Drew, yeah, you're going to be Drew goes, why does my name say host on it? I'm like, because you're the host.
Yeah.
And I told him that was part of my vision, was me standing behind you and supporting you. And so that's, just a little bit what's going on over here too. So it did spill out over here, but I did still see kind of talking to people specifically.
Right. And it was kind of a letdown when.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so they said that.
Hey, you told me over the phone? You should have seen my face. I was like,
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I was kind of happy. Also, like
did you work?
I wasn't gonna. I mean, because I've never done it, so I was nervous, and so I was just thinking, oh, phew, I dodged a bullet.
Definitely not me.
I mean, if I was hoping
I would have been so sad.
I was thinking, oh, maybe it's just another time that it's gonna happen, but not this time, so I can just chill, go on this trip,
and just enjoy it. That's what you had told me.
Yeah. So that ended up happening. We went on the trip, left on a Thursday early morning, and got over there, and it was just. How
long did it take you to get there?
Well, we flew to Miami, 5 hours, and then down to Cuba, which was, I don't know, hour and 20 minutes.
Okay.
So
you got there the same day.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. I don't know why I'm thinking you're flying across, on the other side of the planet.
It was the same day. It's a 3-hour difference over there in Cuba.
Okay.
So we got there, got picked up by the local pastor, Fernando. Who's a really cool guy.
Because this is all new. Cuba is just recently open for us for tourism from the United States.
For tourism. We went on religious visas, though.
Okay, you had it.
Which I don't know if that's any different of when that could have started opening up. But since Fidel passed away and Raul, his brother, took over.
Your dad?
Yeah. Raul Villasenor. Raul Castro. Since he took over, it's definitely been different for them over there.
Yeah.
So, I don't know the full history of Cuba and the revolution, but
something about Che, something about
Fidel, and then the communist revolution.
Bunch happened, of cigars,
and then really, I think what really was a turning point was when the Soviet Union fell, and then they lost all support.
Oh, okay.
And then it became really poor. The people were really exploited, and again, I don't know the full history of it, but
the latest I've known, one of my favorite shows is called. I always want to say No Reservations, but it's on
Anthony
CNN.
Bourdain?
Yeah. It used to be no Reservations, but now it's I feel like
Parts Unknown.
Parts Unknown. I feel like a terrible fan. That's like my favorite show ever. Brain fart. But he went to Cuba and he's beautiful country, but he said like these people have no money to eat.
Right.
He laid it out there like it just wasn't for the people. It was hard life.
Yeah.
He just
what
I know, but what I want to kind of know is like when you're flying into the airport, like what'd you see?
Just it's a big island. It's a very big island, and I guess I didn't really think about that, but we flew into Santa Clara.
Okay.
Which is like middle of the island kind of. It's kind of the country.
On the north side or south side?
No, like right in the middle.
Oh, like in the middle.
Dead in the middle.
Okay.
There was I don't know how many miles above us to get to the beach and below us to get to the ocean, whatever. But we went to Santa Clara. We didn't fly into Havana, which is the main everyone knows. That's the capital and the main. There's like, I might say this wrong, but I think there's like 3 million people there.
Just in that city?
Yeah, that's the main whatever percent.
The capital.
Yeah, and then it's kind of spread out after that.
And the rest of the country is what? Jungles and...
Yeah, kind of jungle, tropical... and so we went into Santa Clara, and the airport there is actually an old military base airport, like Russian airport. So we fly into that, and it's like you get out, on the ground. There
was terminals there, right?
No terminals. No.
Wait, there wasn't someone. There were people carrying out your luggage. And
no, that was not going on.
No baggage claim.
There was a baggage claim, but it was a little hectic. But anyways, so we go through. Oh, okay. So here's another thing. We brought, on the first, it was me, my dad, and my Uncle Gilbert. Mm-hmm. And We brought 6 suitcases full of supplies, like medical stuff, tools, like tracks, Jesus film, this projector, all this stuff that
This
like
just between the 3 of you?
the 3 of us,
Oh, okay.
6 bags,
Was it- was
almost like
every-
300 pounds. Yeah, seriously. So we're taking this in just on faith that God's going to get this in, because I mean, really the biggest thing is what they want to avoid or crack down on is people going in trying to sell and make money. So if you go in with like a bunch of flash drives, or if you go in with a bunch of medical stuff or packages of this, they think that you're going to go and sell and make money.
This
off
is the
of it.
Cuban government.
Right.
Okay.
So that's what they would stop at the airport, you know.
I see.
But we have like, it's just full. Like I didn't even see them because they did like a packing night at Downey Calvary that I didn't go to. But basically my dad said, hey, I got 2 suitcases for you. You know, we'll pay for it. And then we're going to get it in.
Mm-hmm.
So we land, and then the language, it's Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know Spanish very well. My dad, he understands a little bit, but he can't speak it. And then my Uncle Gilbert probably knew the most.
But the Spanish is different.
It's
though, too.
different, and they're fast, like very fast at how they speak. So, good luck trying to
Huge
figure it
language
out.
barrier.
Yeah. So we were trying to figure out where to go. We needed to get our religious visas before we walked through customs. We got that all figured out, and then now the first thing is, are we going to get all these bags in? So it's like
And this is already after you landed.
yeah. So,
okay.
So there's one plane that landed, but it's like everyone's there and it's all like chaotic. There's one little baggage claim terminal or carousel thing, and the people there that work there, I think, are taking all the luggage off and just putting them in the middle. And so it's just like kind of hectic. It's like a bunch of people, and then they want you to sign those, like the immigration cards or like the declaring, that kind of stuff. And we have no idea what to fill out. So this lady filled out a white form, and then there was a blue form we didn't even see. So we find all our luggage, we put it on one of those carts, and then my uncle goes through first of where they're, to get outside of the airport. And we can see that they stop him and ask for the blue card. He doesn't have it, and he's kind of just points to, I don't know, the lady over there and the language barrier, and then the guy, you just see all frustrated because there's like a ton of people trying to get through. He's like, just go, like that, and to like push them through. But he just had his personal stuff. I'm pushing the cart with the 6 bags.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Give it to Drew.
Give it to me.
He looks innocent.
So we go through, and now we're getting close. There's a lady that's going to stop us, me and my dad walking through, and he kind of like tries to like block her, but she stops us. She's like, "Oh, where's your cards?" And we kind of did the same thing. Oh, we're up there with him, and and they're just looking, and literally we just walked right through, and like they had all those bags, so we didn't get stopped at all, and we were able to bring all those supplies in for the people. So
sick.
it was a blessing, and then. On top
you
of
guys
that,
had prayed about that.
well, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it was all prayed over,
Sure.
and obviously, also the other group that
I'm
was
going to
coming,
make tally marks of answered prayers.
no, definitely, it was a lot going on. The whole group that was coming from Downey, they had a bunch of bags too, and just kind of fast forward, all of their stuff was able to go through. There was no problem,
All right, cool.
except for we forgot one bag. We left a bag there.
Nice.
And you just don't, you don't do that. Like, we left a bag at an airport. and there's a bunch of, like, supplies in there, So my dad had to go back the next night with the main pastor, Fernando. And he's like, I don't know if they're going to let you get out of here, And so my dad had to go in. He got pulled in by himself. And that story in itself was a God thing of, like, allowing it to go through, because they must have like done an x-ray and they were asking about thumb drives or flash drives, and that was the things that we had with it was the whole Bible in Spanish, like Chuck Smith's the whole Bible had a bunch of information that we were going to give out at the conference.
Out of everything you really needed, that was
one of the things. Yeah. And so he had to go back, and he told us a story that there was this old man, like airport guy, that was just like, they had the bag in there, and they were trying to ask my dad a bunch of questions. There's the language barrier, and the guy's just like staring at the bag, just like it's not even open. He's just staring at it, and one of the younger guys like, hey, you make a decision already, like come on, hurry up. And so they decided to take everything out. They said, take everything out and show us like where are these flash drives. And my dad told him what he had, and wasn't trying to hide it or anything. Yeah. And inside the bag was a backpack that had tools and a drill gun and the flash drives. So he grabs that and kind of puts it to the side, and then they start going through the bag, the luggage. They pull everything out, and they can't find them. They can't find the flash drives.
And you pulled them out right in front of him.
Yeah, but it was in the backpack that was just put to the side.
Oh, I see.
So he's like, all right, just pack everything up and get out of here. And he was so he packed everything up, and then he grabbed the backpack to put it on. He's like, is that your bag? And he's like, and he said, yeah. He's like, all right, go, get out of here. He thought that he just brought it in. So it was kind of cool. Like, we got everything in, no problems as far as that goes. So yeah, that was kind of the first 2 days.
What were you guys eating over there? Tell me about the food.
It was pretty good. It was good food. It's a lot of pork and chicken. They don't eat beef. It's like illegal to kill the beef. Like, it's only for the government or something. Because you'll see cows and stuff, but you can't just have.
I think from what I heard, it's more of a money thing. Like, it's very expensive.
Yeah,
like,
it must be.
It's kind of like like if you're, I don't know what the class system is
or something.
Yeah, the upper classes.
Right.
Because the only ones who can really afford it.
So there was a lot of pork and chicken.
What about plátanos?
There was no plátanos.
What?
Because of the hurricane. So the hurricane had just come through was it Irma, I think?
And this was
the end of last year.
No.
Destroyed.
Was it the end of last year?
Yeah, I think so. Well, in the fall.
In the fall, yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I mean, Puerto Rico was hit the worst, but Cuba got it too. Not as bad, but all of their banana trees got wiped out because they couldn't withstand the storm. So those were gone. A lot of the different fruits were gone, and I think it was the season too was a little off. But we didn't. Yeah, you weren't able to have any.
Is that something
bananas.
that they can regrow though?
Yeah, they'll regrow. But that was another thing too that they talked to us about.
It'd be kind of weird if we had to import. If they had to import banana.
Yeah, to there. Yeah, we did have some when we were in Havana. That was, and they were really sweet.
Oh, so you did make it out to Havana?
Yeah, for one day we visited at the end of the trip. And that's where we flew out of.
Oh, okay.
But they were telling us about the hurricane, and it was really sad because, and I'll just use this one as an example. The pastor's daughter, her job, she was
because you guys went down with the church, your church went to go visit another church.
Yeah, so there was a bunch of churches from the states here, and over there. So after the revolution, after the Communist Party took over, Fidel took over, they didn't get rid of all of religion and get rid of all the churches. They basically just said, whatever's here now is here. And but you just can't, there's a law, you can't make any new churches. So there's Catholic stuff going on. There's, different denominations of churches that were already there, and they're still going on, I think. And then the church that we went out there to support is called Buenas Nuevas, the Good News. And it's basically...
So these all, but when you say denominated, they're all Protestant churches.
And then Catholicism.
Okay.
And then now that things are open...
Anything outside of that? Any kind of Buddhism, Muslim,
I don't know.
like that?
I don't know.
No Muslims? Because from the Soviet Union, they're all... I think they're primarily Muslim.
Yeah, but it depends on when it happened. I mean, this is late 50s.
People are probably like, Russians are not Muslim. I think they are. I'm not sure.
Well, no, but the Soviet Union, the communism, it was atheism because there was no religion.
Oh, okay.
Or it was outlawed.
Okay.
I think we're history buffs here, right? So
people are just screaming.
So the church that we were going to help support, it's basically like a Calvary Chapel, but they can't call it Calvary Chapel because they can't have a new church there.
Oh, okay.
By the laws. So it's this Buenas Nuevas church, and there's a bunch of them around. They're little house churches. It's like Acts.
Sick.
It's
it's
really
funny.
Cool.
I'm reading Acts right now too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you were saying that. So,
in the future, I said that.
All right. But we went to, it's in Santa Clara, and then the city called Camajuani, and that's where the main church is, where this Pastor Fernando is, and that's we stayed at a hostel in that little city. It's small. I mean, really poor. I mean, they don't have much, like you were saying. And then there's the church, and so we would stay at the hostel, get picked up every morning, go hang out at the church until the camp started.
What were you picked up in?
All types of different things, like little vans. This one little it was almost like a motorbike that I took a picture of it, or from the inside of it, like a little bike. Like the guy riding it kind of did it like a motorcycle, or riding it like a motorcycle, but then the back had like a little 2 rows of seats, so you could fit like 6 people in the back, and it was covered. It was a cool little thing.
A poor engine screaming.
And then the roads are not really roads, and so you're just all over on either side just to avoid potholes. And it's pretty crazy.
Okay.
And so we're there at the church. That's kind of where our main hangout is. And then like more groups start coming in. We met some of the people from Merida, Mexico. Some people, our Downey group came, and then like people from Florida. And so it's just started.
So did you guys fly in early?
We got there early.
Okay.
We were a day early.
Okay.
But people got there all the way up until Sunday, and then the camp started on Monday.
Okay. And what was the camp?
Well, I was just gonna say something about like the bananas and the hurricane. The daughter of the pastor, they were telling us she was making $8 a month. That was her job, I don't know what her job was, but $8 a month. And after the hurricane, they had to go down to $4 a month. So it's like, these people, they're poor, And the whole time it's just, you realize how good we have it here. But then at the same time, it's like, do we have it that good here? Because the people there just seem so... And again, we're surrounded by Christians, so I don't know what the full population is like.
So they were making little over $2 a day.
Yeah, I guess.
And then that got cut in half, so they were making like $1 a day.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Man.
And then think about this: a doctor over there makes $45 a month to be like a doctor, like physician type thing. So it's just, it's unreal, and it's sad. But they have ways of, getting things and, figuring it out. And really, like I was saying, like they're people of faith, and their faith is really real and genuine because they rely on God on a daily basis.
To provide. To
where we have all of these, excess and, but yeah, we still complain about the littlest of things. It was really convicting being out there of like just the attitude that, and I was telling my wife, and I
was upset that I had to change my hair appointment today just to be here.
See, and but those people are just so happy. They're joyful. I don't know. You just see it in their face that it's just real and genuine.
Just to be alive, probably.
I guess, and God's like working in their lives, and they're happy about it and joyful. It's what you read about in the Bible about.
It sounds like because there's no static. For us, in our society. Especially here in Southern California, there's a lot of when I say static, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving parts. Whether it be what entertainment or whether it be just like our own like social groups and then how we deal with it on the inside, as far, and I don't know if I've said this before, but I've always struggled with like coveting, and just really like, like I want, look at what they have. I want the same. Not only that, I want more. And that's just all pride, dude. That's what that is. So, but for them, what I'm saying is for them, that's not even an option.
Yeah.
So maybe if you cut all that out and you wake up, you're like, oh, I made it through the night or whatever, you would be stoked.
Yeah, I guess.
And then you got God, that's
right. And I don't know what the people that, because like I said,
because you're dealing with Christians,
right? Yeah. So. But there's still people, but yeah, I don't know what the other part of the population that maybe don't have Christ, what their attitude is in that situation.
They're sad.
Well, probably. I don't know. But, we're in the country area of Cuba, and it's a little, slower pace. And I think it's kind of the same thing here. You get away from the metropolis areas, and people are a little bit nicer, a little bit more hospitable, that kind of thing. So I don't know. It was definitely convicting. It was a blessing just to be around them and that kind of thing. So on Saturday, we got there on a Thursday. On Saturday, we're just hanging out. I think it actually rained in the beginning of the trip, which was kind of unusual for this time of year because of it had to do with the hurricane. It was kind of changed the weather patterns. Really? But we had really nice weather. Like it wasn't super hot and humid, just really nice. So we're hanging out at the church, and Tito, the missions pastor in Downey, he knows my dad, and he went and asked my dad. He said, "Hey, Raul, is your son Drew? Is he ready to teach tonight?" And I didn't really know this, but I kind of can hear it on this, behind. And my dad, he's like, "Yeah, he'll do it." And like,
hold on, were you acting like you didn't hear him, or?
I kind of looked, and then my dad said, "Hey, so you're gonna teach?" This is like 3 tables over, at the church kind of thing. And I was like, I don't know, and I said, how long? And he said, well, I don't know, 40 minutes or so. And I'm just thinking, oh my gosh. And like we talked about, I'm not prepared because I thought I got out of it.
Yeah. I remember you saying like, oh, like, at least I don't have to worry. I think you even said, at least I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. And I can just, yeah. So it's for the
and
youth
that was that night.
To teach that night. Yeah. And I'm getting told like at 2 p.m. and the service is 8:30 that night. So I'm like, oh, man, I just knew I kind of went there wanting, being open for God to move and take me out of my comfort zone. And there it was. So I said, yeah, but I was still reluctant. What?
No, but that was off the table.
Oh yeah.
At
least that's what I thought.
Oh my
and then
gosh.
God brings it back in.
So what happened? So tell me, walk me through that.
So then, that happened, and then maybe like 30 minutes later, Tito went somewhere else, and then when he came back, I was sitting at one of the tables, and he's like, so he was just kind of making sure I was, ready for it.
Who were you going to teach to?
It was Saturday night youth service.
Okay.
At the church
for their youth
for
group.
their church, yeah. And this isn't the conference; it's just a normal Saturday night service or that they have. And so he comes back by me and he's like, so Drew, you gonna teach? Like smiling, and I said, yeah, I'll do it. And he's like, all right. And he was all excited about it.
Here we go.
So I prepare for maybe 20 minutes. And so, I kind of knew what I was going to talk about. I wanted to talk about how Jesus is the fulfillment or the full representation of God, and kind of use the Old Testament of God, like since the fall, him making the way to have relationship with us. Like after the fall, we cut off relationship with God because of sin. And then from that point, God was doing a work to get closer to us.
You're saying the fall of what?
Of man, the first sin. Adam and Eve.
Okay.
So then a tabernacle with Moses and the people in the wilderness to be able to have God's presence dwell in the tabernacle. Then move forward to the temple, like an actual physical spot in Israel, to where he could fill the temple. And then ultimately Jesus coming to earth, God with us, just to get closer and closer to us. Then Jesus had to go away and die so that the Holy Spirit can come and be not just with us, inside of us.
Where'd you get like, how did that come about? Yeah. Like what made you?
Listening to Mike Erie and then reading a book of his, and then just Colossians.
It kind of sounds like you had that one chambered.
Well, I just was thinking, I said, yeah, this would be cool. This would be a good thing to teach about.
Did you have like scripture to back it up?
I had some scriptures.
You did that in 20 minutes.
Well, I had a note from the book that I read, Astonished, and there was
Do you have that book?
I have it, yeah.
You're going to have to...
Unless you borrow it.
For sure.
So, and if you're out there, Astonished by Mike Erie, just plug Mike all over. But okay, so that's my preparation. My dad's asking me, okay, what are you going to talk about? And he was kind of trying to help me to, because, I had what I thought I was going to talk about, but I got to talk for 40 minutes, And so I'm thinking I was going to talk about this a little bit, how we started this podcast, and then maybe some of my story. And then I was going to talk about American movie, I think it's called Risen. There's just a cool scene in Risen when Jesus...
I haven't seen it.
It's about a Roman centurion. It's not like biblical. It's biblical, but not like direct from the Bible. It's like their own spin on it. But it's a good movie.
Like Ben-Hur?
Yeah, kind of like that. So the night comes and I'm getting nervous. I'm like super nervous and and I got prayed over by some men there, and it was really cool. God was getting emotional. Like I wrote a journal, and I was writing in the journal because I was kind of writing it to Abby, to my wife, the journal. That's kind of how it's addressed to. And I was just saying, even before that, I just felt emotional the whole time. And I was trying to figure out, why am I always on the edge of tears? I'm looking at these people, I'm meeting these people, and just I didn't know if it was just the spirit that was moving there, and it was just there and thick, or if it was the realization of my own heart and the hardness of it, or just the people and how generous they were and that kind of thing, or maybe it was a combination of everything. But it was a really emotional trip, and it made me think about the fact. Remember we had that episode when we were talking about crying, and you're like, "Oh, Drew's never cried," or the cop that sucks up the tear. I was thinking about it. I was like, dude, I was like a wreck over there. So I got prayed over before.
Well, you were just saying, you just said that you felt like your heart was hardened. like going there?
Well, I mean, not necessarily specific to that, but I think just over the years and my own like doubt and disbelief, things like that, that I still struggle with. But I was, going on this trip to like, not so much break down those walls, but just be open to what God could do in my life and then with this trip. You know what I mean? So getting ready to teach, and I'm super nervous, and like, my uncle and my dad are there, and there's other people, like it's not just youth in the sanctuary, and I don't know how many people were there. It wasn't a ton, but I got called up to talk, and I do the message, and there's an interpreter because I can't speak Spanish, so I have to, and that's, I don't know, I was just all over the place. It wasn't good, basically.
It's funny in my head. I'm like thinking that you just preached the dog out of the bushes. I'm like thinking, holy smokes. No, but he might have. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there.
There was, people afterwards that like encouraged me and like. But again, the language barrier, I couldn't really talk to him. But basically, I was supposed to talk for 40 minutes, and my dad filmed it. Which, by the way, he lost his phone, so we don't have it.
Dude, I was about to say, I can't wait to see it.
But I talked for 16 minutes. So, and then I didn't like, I don't know, I think it was good, like what I was talking about, like what I just told you about, like there was some good stuff there, but I didn't think about like I didn't tell any of my story. I forgot to. Well, yeah. And then I didn't like tie it in at the end, and seriously at the very end, like I kind of got done and I was just sitting there. I was like, all right, that's it.
You're welcome.
I didn't even like pray after. The girl that was translating had to pray. Needless to say, it was a humbling experience. Isaac's over here just cracking up. He can't stop.
I'm sorry, dude. No, that's legit. Hey, dude. Seriously. No, I love that. You know what? That's better. That's legit because.
Well, and it's honest too because
that's straight up what happened.
I sucked.
But you know what? The fact is that I had a vision and it came true.
Well, that's all you care about.
No, you know why? Because dude, that changed my faith. In my walk, dude,
you having that,
it put me in me in overdrive, dude. From that, when you told me that your dad had asked you, to speak, and I gave him that word a couple weeks before, dude, it changed that changed my life.
Right.
I mean, that put me in a position where I was like, oh God, like
this is
you're real.
Yeah.
I better stop playing around and really just give my life to you, full on, and so. Just the fact that happened, and I love that. To me, it's like
no, because I want to laugh about it because it's laughable. But there was a good point. Like I met this one guy along the way later on in the trip. His name was Jonathan, and he's actually a youth pastor in San Diego. And I kind of told him about it, and he's like, "Well, that's good because it's not about you." Because I told him I sucked. He's like, "It's about God," and I was like, "Yeah, that's a good way to look at it."
He's a loser.
This guy sucks. But I'll tell you, like, it was a good learning experience. I'm glad I did it.
And your dad was watching. Your dad filmed it. What did your dad say?
He's we joked about it and he laughed, but he was like, it was good, and he just kind of was giving me some pointers.
It's hard, bro.
Oh,
it's hard to speak publicly,
and I've never done that.
Not only that, you're not prepared. Like,
right. But but I should have been prepared, and I can make all the excuses I want. But when I got done, like right away after I got done, the first thing that popped in my head was I need to know the Bible more. Like I just need to know the Bible. I need to be able to like read the Bible, pull things out of it, and if I am going to teach, not saying that's what I'm going to do, but
according to my vision, you are.
But that's like what I felt, and I think that was a good thing. Like, you know what I mean?
And it takes a lot of work. I mean, I've been really diving in, and I was talking to my buddy just yesterday. Shout out to Jeff Collins. We were talking about we're like, what's the scripture? We went back a couple of times. What's this? There's a scripture that says this, and then finally we're like, we need to get better at this. It's hard to quote scripture, and it's but you've done it a bunch. You know it. I think whether you think so or not, a lot. Because you've busted out some stuff. I'm like, oh, that's pretty powerful. But it's my point.
But then I've been around like these other You know what I mean? There's different.
My point
levels.
is it takes a lot of work, but I think that's something that you grow into, and when you really desire to know God more, you will, and you'll dig in. So,
but it was cool. It was cool too. The one of the pastors, his name was Manny. He was the one that prayed over me before it, but he didn't have a chance to see it because if your ride was leaving, you had to go. Like, so they actually had to leave.
You're either coming or you're walking.
Yeah, they had to leave, and so he asked me the next day how it went, and I told him, "Oh man, it's 16 minutes. And I was supposed to talk for 40," and he's like, "Oh, that's good. Mine was like 14 my first time."
Oh, that's sick.
Just,
well, that's what I was thinking too. It's probably like
encouraged me in that for kind
sure.
Of thing. So that happened. That was Saturday. Sunday. Oh, that was a good trip too. Sunday we went to one of the local mission. They call them missions, which are the local churches. And so there's just these little house churches that, because technically, with the government they can't have a church, so it's a house that has an area to people to meet, and that's kind of what they do. So we went to this one city in Cifuentes, and it was just a great experience. My dad actually spoke, and it's funny. I don't think he was like trying to rub it in, but he used what I was talking about the night before, and then mixed it into his message, and it was like,
what did he speak
way
about?
Better. Just the
like you're saying, what
I talked about. Then he used, I think it was a passage in Matthew 15 about like the Pharisees and them just not getting it, and just being about the laws of man versus you know God and Jesus,
where they were trying to trip him up about like
doing
giving
stuff on the Sabbath
and
that. About withholding things,
taxes. Giving, he's all whatever Caesar's is Caesar's, and
well,
whatever's
I don't know if it was that.
Oh, okay.
Whatever it was,
well,
but it was good. I mean, it was a great message, and
there you go, and that's how you do it. And you drop the mic.
Exactly. But it was good. And it was cool because I hadn't, seen my dad teach in a long time.
Okay.
Because our relationship. I mean, just the whole fact that we were there on this trip together.
Yeah.
Because there was, we repatched our relationship, or kind of redeemed it before we left to Salt Lake City almost 3 years ago. And so just the relationship that I've gotten back with my dad has been pretty awesome. And I know for him, it was a blessing of me being there.
Was that the primary reason why you went down to Cuba initially? Kind of seemed like it. No,
not for that. It was just because we were already getting our,
but no,
relationship back.
I know not to do that, but just like, I'm going to go, like he had asked you to go. So you're like, yeah, I'll go on a trip with my dad. No,
I think for me, really, it was wanting to step out for God. And I feel like God is wanting me to, like, we're doing this, this podcast kind of thing of just doing it, and
for
then
sure.
The mission trip was an option. I just wanted to say yes.
God's
just
reaching out to you, brother.
And just be
That's
faithful,
sick. Yeah.
where for so many years I haven't been, even though I've known the truth. I grew up in in the faith and, believed the Bible, but yet the way I lived was, I turned my back from God, So it was just kind of a conscious effort of trying to just step out and do it,
So your dad speaks on Sunday, which is church day.
Church day. So it was cool.
Spoke. That's cool.
So then we meet this family, the house church, Lázaro, and I forget the wife's name. They have 2 little daughters, and then there was the cousins, or I can't remember what brother or sister the connection was. I think they were family, but there was this other couple and their son. His name was Dalis. It was like my middle name, Daly, but it was named after like a pitcher or something like that, a baseball player. And then his wife, Anina, and then their son, Ezekiel. And so we're hanging out after the service, and we were supposed to get back on the car because we were the farthest church out. There was like a group that went. Other people went to other churches.
Okay.
But our host, Lázaro, was like insistent on that they serve us lunch or like feed us, but they're like preparing this thing, so it was going to take like an hour or so. So our driver got in contact with the other ones and made them wait, and I'm really glad we did because it was like limited conversation because of the language barrier, but we had an interpreter, Vanessa. Shout out to Vanessa. She was cool. She interpreted for my dad during the service or the sermon, and it was really good. But so we're just sitting around, just having fun, talking, laughing. And I don't know, it was just a cool experience to like.
And you know what? What I'm thinking of right now as you're saying that, I think, I'm going back to Mike Erie breaking bread with people,
at the table,
and that's kind of like where we unite, as Christians, as brothers and sisters, and
even though we're
God.
Two different countries, speak different languages, there's that connection because of the Holy Spirit, and that we're brothers and sisters in Christ. And that's exactly what it was.
What'd you guys eat?
They made us, it was chicken, some kind of like roasted chicken with yuca, black beans, rice, and then some fresh veggies.
Sick.
It was good. And then they
Nice.
gave us and it's just like, so it was me, my Uncle Gilbert, my dad, Vanessa, our driver, and then the main pastor. We were sitting at the table.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have enough room for everyone, so the kids were playing, and then the wives were kind of serving us. Like, I hope they ate afterwards, but they just wanted to.
They're being
host,
hospitable.
yeah, and I don't know how much food they had, and like if that was their last chicken or I don't know, but it was just cool. It was just a blessing to like have that from them, and I'm sure they probably felt like it was a blessing for us to be there, but really I felt like it was coming only one-sided. They were blessing us,
So far this trip is sick, and the conference or the camp hasn't even started yet.
Exactly. Okay, so we get to, that was Sunday, and then the camp starts on Monday. So the camp is like an hour away at this, they call it Canaan, and it was an old.
Are you inspired to speak Spanish now?
Well, I have to. I told myself I'm going to learn Spanish.
Oh, I'm going to do it with you.
And I actually, by the end of the trip, because I don't know a lick.
It's practice.
I was understanding a lot better.
It's practice,
Oh,
brother.
yeah. I feel like if I go there and live for 6 months, I could probably learn it.
I failed
That
Spanish
immersion.
in college twice.
I took it in high school and I didn't pay attention.
Well, I was trying to get credits in college in Spanish.
You thought this would be easy?
Yeah.
Because I'm Mexican?
Well, I just thought, I'd just figure it out, and nope.
It was your Indian Chumash blood coming out.
Okay.
So, camp starting, we travel there early that Monday. And so the whole reason for us to be there is it's a pastor's conference, okay, for the people of Cuba. And all of these little house churches, these pastors are coming here, and they've been doing this for several years. I don't know exactly how long, but this is like the thing for them. This is like vacation. It's to get together with other believers. Some people are traveling 12, 14, 16 hours to get there by either bus or I don't know, some walk or what. But they come here or go to the camp. Everything's paid for. So I think it's Downing Calvary that does it all. Maybe some of the other churches, but I think it's through Downing Calvary. Like, it's all paid for. So there's people just, it's probably the best they're going to eat all year. 3 meals a day. And that was the thing. We're there. There's 70 of us, and we're supposed to be serving them. And one of the main things is serving food. So the kitchen, there's a kitchen that they had cooks and stuff, and then they would cook for us, those cooks, like our own meals, but we had to serve in the dining area. And the dining area only sat maybe around 100 people, and there's probably I think they said it was close to 900 people there, if not 1,000. So it's constantly them coming in, we serve them, we're running, basically, getting plates, putting out their tables, filling up water cups. They're it's not much what they're eating, but this is the best they're going to eat. And so, service with a smile, and it was cool. It was really cool to I was running around, doing it, and always just happy to serve because you feel like you're doing it for God,
For sure.
And so, but to feed 900 people or whatever it is, and only can fit 100, they're constantly cycling them out. So that was the challenge of the logistics of that. So that was cool. We did that
every day.
Every day. Yeah.
Okay. What'd you do? You were busing?
Yeah, anything, from the food to out there, and then clean up and just all that, anything they needed. So, and then the whole part of the conference is the pastors from the U.S. were going to teach the whole book of Hebrews.
Okay.
So there's 13 chapters, I think it is, something like that. So they were going to teach every chapter, and so every session or every message was one chapter. So my dad actually taught one. He taught chapter 7, I believe it was, and it was really cool. So that's kind of what the conference was, and then they would break off.
And you're sitting in on it too.
I would sit in on it, but then I decided I was going to help the youth and the kids. So the first day they didn't have anything for the youth, so I just went to the kids. So they call the youth 13 through 20 something, whatever it is. Okay. And then the kids were anyone younger than that. So I went to the
Young
kids.
Adults.
Well, no, little kids. I
Okay.
guess. Or you're talking about the youth as young adults.
Yes.
Yeah. But they call them the youth. So for this, we'll call it the youth.
No, yeah.
And then so the kids, they were doing their own thing. I went and helped out with them for a little bit, and the kids are crazy, so I got out of there. And so that kind of finished day one. Then day two at the camp was, I'm going to look at my notes here for my journal. But basically, day two, what they would do is they would have breakfast. We would get there from Kamawani, and so we'd get there a little bit later, so we didn't help serving breakfast. We just did lunch and dinner.
Mm-hmm.
So the beginning of the services would start. We'd go up for worship at the main sanctuary.
Was it like American worship or was it Cuban worship?
Well, Spanish, and it was pretty awesome. Like, I mean, they were getting into it. Like,
Yeah?
it was good stuff. Yeah.
Like Cuban, well, I don't know, Cuban instrument.
No.
Like I'm thinking of like what do they call Cuban? Like they call it salsa, right?
Well,
Is that
they
Cuban
do
music?
salsa, and they do like the, beats and the bongos and I don't know what Cuban music is, but yeah, kind of salsa.
Yeah.
And I think there's other influences as well, but no, it was like worship music just in Spanish. So
Wasn't-
I knew the songs.
Wasn't Hillsong United? Huh?
Well, they were singing like Christian songs that we know, but they were in Spanish. So it was pretty cool. And sometimes
That
I
is
could
cool.
sing the English words, and sometimes I just tried to do the Spanish words. But so they would do worship, and then the first speaker would come on. The kids would break. They would go to the kids, and then the youth would go. So the second day, we decided to meet with the youth.
No, I want to ask you real quick because we've talked about worship and kind of like you were explaining to me before we had this little conversation where you were saying that you know everybody worships their own way.
Right.
And did you worship like Drew worship or did it change?
What? What do you mean?
Just
I mean, I think I was a little bit more into it. I think I felt it a little bit more. Maybe I let guards down.
did the hands go up?
I worship with my hands up sometimes. Not all the time. But I was there.
The prehistoric worship?
The T-Rex. No, I had hands up and
All right.
getting into it. No, it
Just
was,
kidding.
and like I said, like the whole, like, it's just, everything was like emotional, like I was like on the edge of tears almost, a lot of it. It was crazy.
For people just like, all right, Drew, we get it.
Yeah. You're into this. We got it. No, but it was definitely a cool experience in general. But okay, so the youth, I meet with them. That guy Jonathan, he gives the first little sermon for the youth, and then we break and try to play a little bit, and then we meet back up with them, and we lost a bunch of kids. They went and started doing their own thing, but we met at this cabana, this little like hut kind of thing, but it was good size, and so the kids were there. Yeah, day 2 of the camp, which was a Tuesday. I went after the first worship. I went with the youth, and then we met at this. Like I said, Jonathan gave his message, and then we met at the little cabana, we'll call it, little hut, and it was like the circular thing, and we went in there, and it was cool because we asked the kids to, and again, this is like age 13 to 20, maybe 19. I can't remember how they split it, but we had them write anonymous questions on paper, and then the leaders, there was like, I don't know, 6 of us or so, leading the group, if you say, and they wrote these questions down, and we said we would answer them or try to answer them the best as possible. And that actually was
like biblical questions?
It could be anything.
Okay.
It could be relationship questions. It was funny because a lot of them were like, a friend of mine, is dating this person who's not a Christian. It's like typical stuff. But there definitely was a cultural difference and barrier. It's just different, like we're exposed to a lot more at a younger age. We have the internet.
Do they seem more innocent?
They did, I think. But at the same time, you don't know for sure, like, because
You're at
kids
church.
are kids and, what they're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But it was really good. They had some really great questions, some tough questions, and I felt like we were able to answer them
For example?
pretty good. A lot of them were like questions about, should you date someone that's not a Christian? That kind of thing.
No.
Next question. One question was
Next question.
One question was tough. Was like, my friend, her mom won't let her go to church, but she wants to go to church, and she sneaks out to like go to church. Like, is that
gangster?
Is that wrong? Is that wrong or not? And like, that's a tough question, because you're supposed to obey your parents. Yeah. You're still under their roof, and so I kind of said, it depends on what the conviction of her heart is, but she can still be a Christian. She can still be an example to her mom, a witness to her mom by listening to the mom and not going to church, but still believing, still reading her Bible, surrounding herself with friends that are Christians, and then instead of just being, defiant and go, even though you're doing it for a good thing,
getting to church on a righteous path rather than a defiant path.
Right. Yeah. And then I did make the point of, like, if the mom was saying like you can't be a Christian, then you'd have to make that choice of going against your mom because you have to make that call for Jesus. So anyways, like questions like that, just questions like
true. Dropping wisdom.
Questions like how can I be more of a leader, for those around me, just like those things. Like, I hope my kid's asking those questions, when he's older. But it was really cool. And then so the group leaders asked if I could share in the afternoon that day on this, that Tuesday.
Round two.
And they were asking if I could speak on purity, like, because that's what they were going to get to, was a teaching on purity. And I'm thinking, I'm the last person to be talking about purity, And I was writing this in my journal. I said, well, I'm the last person, but maybe I'm just the right person for it, So I told them, I said, I don't know. I don't really have like a teaching, that I can do specifically on that, but I'll give my testimony. So they said, okay, that'll be good. So this one guy, Andrea, the Italian guy, he did the message to start, and he talked about David and Bathsheba and talking about a little bit of his testimony and purity and that kind of thing. And then I gave mine. And I think it went pretty well. Like, the first thing I did was I was like, hey, just, let you guys know, and there's a translator, obviously. And I said, I'm a pastor's kid. I'm a PK. And I said, any of you guys pastor's kids? And again, we're at a pastor's conference. So so it was like, 80% of them raised their hand. And I looked at it around and I said, all right, then we're hermanos, like that. And like, sick. And there was these two ladies that were with our Downey group. They came and was watching and, praying for me as I was doing it. And one of them said like right when you did that, like you just had the connection, you were able to really talk to them. So I just gave my testimony of growing up in the church, and then like we were just talking about a little earlier, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, living that double life, getting a girlfriend at a young age and deciding to, start, sleeping together, making that call. And then there was a time in my life around like 18, I was telling him this, that I wanted to like make a change and live for Jesus. And I did, I tried. But the relationship I had at the time, and then certain things going on, like that was my comfort. And I kind of, when you talks about in the Bible, like having idols and stuff, and God should be the number one in your life. I chose to have something else as my idol, and it was my choice. It wasn't like she brought me down or anything like that. That was a call I made.
She definitely brought you down, Drew. Blame her.
Yeah, and then so I told him, from that point, that relationship ended. But from that point on, like, then I was going full bore into, just living life for myself. Basically what it come down to is just living a selfish life, like just wanting to party, to, do whatever and worry about myself and not care about others or God. And I was telling him how and again, so I wasn't giving real detail of like, because for me, there was like drugs and alcohol, big time, like, just the whole scene, because I didn't know they don't really have a temptation with drugs over there, which I thought they would, but it's mainly alcohol. And do
they have drugs over there?
I mean, they must, but maybe not. Maybe they've kept it out, the government. I don't know. But it was still, I think I was able to still connect the purity thing because I was telling about the mistakes I had made. And then there's a time when I was crying out for God. And then I feel like the answer for prayer was my wife, that I met, Abby. And she, even though she wasn't living a Christian life when we met, us getting together in the background that we had, we got convicted and was like, hey, we need to start going to church. And then we decided to stop sleeping around, when we decided we were going to take things real serious, and then going to church, and we kept things pure before we got married. I mean, it was a big commitment for us, and it wasn't easy. So that was,
what they say, pimping ain't easy.
So that was the testimony I gave, and I felt like it went well, and I was able to connect with them. And again,
okay, that's beautiful. So, and just so people don't know, to kind of inform people, before you guys were married, you guys got baptized together.
We did, yeah,
and that was beautiful.
Yeah, you guys were there.
I was there, yeah. Me and Man, that was a while ago because we only had Kaya. It was me, Wayne, and Kaya.
Yeah, that was.
But my point is that was you guys did decide you guys were gonna live a pure life and do it right. And
obviously we're not perfect, but we made that commitment to ourselves and to God, and it was cool. I'm really glad that we did.
Yeah, I'm glad I was there.
So that was another time that I got to speak to the youth, and I was thinking about you, and that time went a lot better. I didn't have a time frame.
You know what? You saying you're thinking of me while you're there makes me happy.
So that was that day. The next day was a big day. And
it was day 3 of the camp.
It was day 3 of the camp. It was the 7th of February.
It was a Wednesday.
Day 7 of our trip.
Okay.
It was a Wednesday. And kind of the normal deal with the camp. We got there, did the first service, broke with the youth, and then there was a little break before lunch, and there was a pond there on the campground. I mean, just one thing. I mean, it was beautiful. It was like paradise there. I mean, it was like an old structure, and like kind of the buildings weren't great, and where the people had to stay was still kind of I wouldn't want to stay there, but it was nice for them, I guess.
But the scenery
itself, I mean, palm trees and like just beautiful clear skies.
You're in the tropics.
Yeah, it's like paradise, you know? So there was this pond with these fish in there, and me and my dad went and we were hanging out before we had this little break. We sat down on this bench and we were just talking, looking at the pond, the fish and that kind of thing, and big tree, the shade over it. And he's just kind of asking me, he's like, what do you think God's call is on your life? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I've ever really felt like a specific call from him. And to be honest, like I've prayed many a prayer of like, God, what do you want? What do you want for me to do? And this is like going back to when, I'm a teenager. Mm-hmm. And then even when I was living in sin, but like it's still I still had that connection with God, or like that foundation. I wanted something with it.
God was calling you, but like you said, again, you had,
I just kept saying no, that kind of thing. But specifically, like, what am I supposed to do? I'm on a mission trip. My dad's kind of asking me this, do you see yourself in the mission field, like doing things like this, teaching, whatever? And I said, I don't know. I don't really feel like God's ever called me to something specific. I mean, we're doing this thing now, and I think this is awesome, this podcast, but so we were talking about that, and then the couple that we met at that church on Sunday, Delis and Anina, walk up, and we start talking, just laughing. We're talking about the fish, because it's this fish they call a Claudia. At least that's what it sounded like. I don't know if that's really how they're saying it, but it's like a catfish type fish that's kind of gross, and they don't like it. And we were like joking, saying, yeah, we want to catch them and eat them. And the wife's just like, no. Like, just laughing. And, there's that language barrier.
Yeah.
And she can kind of speak English a little bit, so she was translating for the guy. So we're sitting there talking, and just out of nowhere, Dalis just starts kind of talking to my dad, but then to me too. And he's like, there's a call on this young man right here, talking about me. He's like, he's going to be, or he starts like giving me a word. And like, for those of you that don't know, like, within the spirit, people have certain gifts, and I don't know if this is a specific one, but God will give a word to people, and they can speak over someone's life, whether it's like a prophecy, or whether it's just like, a word from God, or, scripture, like to look into. And so he starts like speaking over me about like, God's going to call him. He's going to, do this and that. And dude, I'm telling you, it's just like not 10 minutes before that, me and my dad are talking about like, does God have a specific call for my life? And I'm crying, like tears are coming down.
God came
through
this guy and told you what you were questioning.
Yeah. And this lady, the wife, is translating, and I'm just like sitting there in like disbelief.
Holy,
it was a holy smokes moment, like for sure. And he went into specific stuff, but he was kind of like, you take this and hold this in your heart and prepare your heart for this. Ooh. And read the Bible, study the Bible. And I was thinking, like, after I gave that sermon on that Saturday night, the first thing I thought of was, I need to learn the Bible.
Oh, I mean, it's because he was there.
Right. So no, he wasn't there, because he was in some city.
I'm just kidding.
I know. But so he's like giving me this word, and it's like, I've never experienced anything like this in my life. And it wasn't, he wasn't like, it was just calm. and just like speaking this way, and I'm just like, dude, this is like God directly talking to me, because he's just answering what we were just talking about, answering prayers that I've had for a long time. And then my dad asked for him to pray over me. And so we're getting a circle and we're all praying. He's just like praying like powerfully over me. My dad's like praying in the spirit, and my still the hardness of my heart, like I'm even thinking this is weird right now, and like I'm doubting it in that moment but I'm feeling this, and I told my wife, I was like weeping, I was like crying, weeping when this was happening.
Were you sobbing or were you weeping?
Well, what's the difference? No, it wasn't sobbing. It was just crying, but it just felt like nothing I've ever felt before, and it was just
the Holy Spirit penetrated you, brother.
And it was
That's
just
what that is.
And I felt afterwards, really what it was is like he gave me some things that he was speaking over my life, but who knows, how exactly that's going to play out. I mean, I hope that it ends up happening or that kind of thing, but
God told me too, so I know exactly.
But really, I just felt like it was kind of God saying, "Hey, Drew, I love you, and I hear you,
That's powerful.
And just be patient, and I'm working." That's like kind of what it kind of boiled down to, and it was just like, oh my God, it was just so heavy, but just like great, and I don't know, it was just really, really amazing moment, and I'm glad I got to experience it, and I wouldn't have experienced it if
you didn't go.
If I didn't go,
you would still
put myself out there.
We still would have been questioning me and my antics.
Yeah, and I feel like even I still have doubts. So like if you're out there and I get it, it's funny. I was reading after Jesus died, and then he started showing up around the apostles.
Yeah.
And there's the one part of the road to Emmaus, and he talks to those guys.
And they don't even look at him.
And then, but when they realize it's him, they go back and tell the disciples in Jerusalem, and then Jesus shows up in the room, and it says in there, but some still doubted.
Yeah.
And he's like right in front of them,
Yeah.
And then there's another, I think it might be in Matthew, that was in Luke, I think. Well, I don't know. But in Matthew, when Jesus ascends up into heaven after he's done, and there's people still doubted.
Yeah.
It was like, what?
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like I can be sometimes.
That's our flesh, dude. Our as people, it's hard for us to grasp the supernatural power of God. It's hard, man.
Right.
Actually, I was man, was it? I think I just finished this book by Jordan Peterson, and or was it a C.S. Lewis? One of the books I'm reading right now. But they were saying that if you believe something that you can't prove, you're an idiot. Like you're done. Like you can't prove it, and you believe in it, you're stupid. But he was saying though, but that's what real men, how like real men love Jesus, because real men have enough power and just enough they're not afraid, they're not ashamed, and just to say, I believe in God and I love him. What? Beat me in the parking lot if you got a problem with that, and
yeah, for sure.
So,
no, I get that. And so even
I'm just trying to confirm what you're saying. It's hard. But it's hard.
Yeah, and I feel comfort reading those passages. Like there were still some that doubted then, but I don't want to doubt, and I do believe.
And they witnessed it.
And they witnessed it, exactly. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
But like this moment that I had, this experience I had was real, you know, and you can try to explain it a different way or whatever, but we had just had that conversation, and then this couple walks up, and they're moved in the spirit and the boldness to speak to me. Like, who knows, what if I'm thinking, these guys are crazy or whatever, but, and they do that, and it's just like God was talking to me.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Nice. Wow. So okay. So now we're pushing forward. So now you're in the middle of the trip. You just got a word from somebody. And God just revealed himself to you in the midst of this trip.
Right.
Okay. So.
And then it's just kind of like basking in that the whole time. And really, so the next day was the end of the camp. Finished out, the stuff with the youth and finishing those questions and answers, and just as much as I could. Like there was a couple, of them that came up and asked. Like it was just hard because of the language barrier, but they just wanted, kind of let me know that they were connected to me because of the testimony I gave, and then I prayed over some of them and was able to pray with them, and that's all I could do because I need to know Spanish, but hopefully that. There was some of them that game, but it's not me. It was
Todo está bien. Todo está bien.
So we finished that up, and then it was a long trip to Havana. Like basically now it's just kind of like that was the main highlights right there, at least for me.
Mm-hmm.
But we went to Havana. It was like a 4-hour trip. We had a couple we did a devotional one day with the people. There was maybe like I think 20 of us at that point.
Mm-hmm.
We broke off and went to Havana. Some stayed there, and it was just cool because they were making some points of like almost everyone said they felt like they were completely blessed by the people of Cuba versus us going to bless them. That's really kind of what like summed it up. Just the joy that the people have, and it was just, I don't know, it was just awesome.
And that's powerful because you think, oh, we're gonna go, we're helping these people, we're bringing them food, we're setting up this camp, we're doing all this stuff for them, we're blessing them. Mm-hmm. But in hindsight, you're like, oh no,
it was the other way around, big time. And then one of the pastors made a point that I really liked. The pastor from Samia in Santa Ana, church in Santa Ana. He was saying that someone was pointing out to him that when the revolution happened and Fidel took over, like people were saying, you got to get rid of all the churches. You got to like get rid of religion and put it out now, And he's like, no, it'll be all right. Like, I bet you in about 70 years, within 70 years, it will fizzle itself out. Mm-hmm. And at the last day of the camp, there was the kids ministry, which was over 100 kids up on the stage in the main sanctuary doing like a Christian song,
Future
like
of the church.
And it was in like, just to have that position of, he said that it was going to be gone. Now Fidel's gone. You got this group of young people. And God's still here. Jesus is still moving.
And it will to the end.
Yeah. So that was a really powerful point and like really cool to look at. And then we kind of sightsaw a little bit in Havana. That was cool experience, mm-hmm. but it was kind of short. And then we flew home. But that was basically the trip.
So now, being back, can you tell me like how you feel now compared before you went over there? Like the change that God did. I mean, obviously He revealed Himself to you, but
I think could
you just describe kind of what you're going through?
I think it's just
post-trip?
More like the start of this podcast has kind of been a good jumping point for me, or like to really get back into it, and
mm-hmm.
but that really confirmed like I said, like it was God answering, just saying, hey, Drew, I'm here. I love you.
I don't know if we've talked about this before. We might have, but I'll bring it up again just in case. Is when you were in Utah, I would call you, and it was hit and miss with you, as everybody knows. But when we talk, I'd always ask you this question: how's your walk with God? Mm-hmm. Do you remember that? I'd always ask you like, how's your walk with God? How's your walk with God? Because we would talk about God, so I knew you believed, but I also knew that you weren't giving your life like, I don't know, I don't want to say like the way I did or whatever, but for whatever reason I felt like you were supposed to be all in, like God was telling, I guess now I'm thinking about it as we speak, God was telling me like, oh, Drew, he was telling me to tell you that because he wanted you, and I think I was bugging you about it because I felt it. I felt the conviction of needing to tell you like, hey, like, how you doing? Are you going to church? Because remember I asked you like, I would just call you like, hey, did you go to church? Like what church are you going to? And just kind of wanting you to be, in the brotherhood of our Lord, like we're not, I mean, there's only one begotten Son, that's Jesus, but we are all children of God,
right?
And in that we're brothers, so
yeah, for sure.
My point is that, doing this podcast when God gave me the vision or whatever, and He called me to do this, and you were the name that He kept on giving me, and now that we're doing it, we're doing what God was telling me to, as far as you just giving your life back to Him and dedicating your time, because it's not like we have all kinds of free time.
Yeah,
we have families, right now our wives are at home, without
Pissed
us.
off that we're here.
And
Just kidding.
and we're doing this because God is,
At least we feel like he's calling us to do this, and I feel like
don't feel it, dude.
Yeah,
I mean, he called us,
and we're
I heard.
stepping out in faith, and I feel like that's what the trip was for me. And then God kind of confirmed it, and kind of spoke back. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely changed things, but I think just this podcast has kind of helped really kick things into gear, or at least, and who knows what the future holds, but
You're gonna go home and get wasted tonight.
yeah. No, it's like,
I'm just kidding.
It's not that it's never been real to me.
No, it was just a matter of you giving your
surrendering more
yeah.
to it. Yeah, I think so.
And that's hard.
Yeah,
It's hard. It's harder than what it's because
it's easy to deny it. Easier sometimes, I think.
I think it's hard to accept God.
Right.
Because you don't want to give up whatever your idols are. Like you were talking about idols.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You idolize your girlfriend, or you idolize alcohol or
money or friends.
Anything.
Yeah.
And then that's the thing that if I accept God, I have to give up these things.
Mm-hmm. Or at least they have to be, well, some of the stuff you should probably give up, or it depends on how he convicts you. But yeah, you're putting God number one on every list.
And that's hard to do.
Definitely. But yeah, overall, I think I'm glad I went on the trip. I wish, and I told Abby this too, I wish she could have experienced it with me,
There'll be other opportunities for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And she was holding it down.
We need to do a family one.
Thanks, Abby, for allowing me to go to the trip, because I wouldn't have been blessed like I was if she wasn't as gracious.
And I prayed for you guys. Me and my wife were praying for Abby. We were praying for you.
Mm-hmm.
I was really excited just to kind of hear about what happened over there. When you came back, I'm like, don't tell me anything.
Want to hear it on the podcast.
I want to hear it. Save it. So,
but yeah, I had my holy smokes moment.
Whoever's listening, I'm listening. This is the first time I'm hearing it too. So, and it was a long week. But, so yeah, you had your holy smokes moment, and now, I guess you got a word of what God might have for you.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you going to pursue it?
Well, I think what I need to do is just get in the Word more.
Continue doing this podcast. Do
the podcast. Be faithful. Try to be sensitive to God's calling, and to listen and be able to hear it. And just be act out in faith. Take the step, and God's, He'll meet me the next step. So,
amen, yeah.
But that's it. That's Cuba. Yeah.
Oh, and you know what? It's funny. While you were gone, no, that was last weekend. So I watch MMA. I'm like really in MMA. But Cuban, Yoel Romero.
Oh, really?
Cuban.
Nice.
He just won a big fight, so he's in title contention.
So yeah, if you guys are out there, and I'd ask you to pray for the people of Cuba, the church in Cuba. They need our prayers. They're fellow brothers and sisters in the Lord, and they need to feel like they're a part of the family. And it goes with the persecuted church out in the world. They're a part of our family. And we have it easy here.
Blessed.
We have it very easy here.
Blessed.
And we should appreciate that and keep those other believers in our prayers for sure. Yeah,
and other parts of the world, they're not even able. I mean, a lot of countries, they're not can't even go to church. Mm-hmm. They have to do church in secret, like illegal. They did in Acts.
Mm-hmm.
But they're doing it because they believe in God. And here in America, we just we get to go to church, jump up and down, and. It's
pick and choose and say, I don't like this church. I don't like that person. The teaching wasn't good. The worship. Sorry. That's just,
and then,
but we could be like that.
That's why Drew doesn't go to church.
The consumer mentality of America bringing us down. Anyways, so we just want to leave that with you. This is a long episode, I'm assuming, right?
hour 20.
Oh boy.
We'll edit it down to hour 18.
Yeah.
No, but you know what? I'm glad you went, and it sounds like you came back, with your, with like an armor of God, and you're ready to battle, and you're ready to throw down. And I love that, because I've been waiting, brother. Do it together, man, and we're gonna do it through this podcast.
Yeah.
And I want to thank God for making this possible, for giving me a vision, for this, and for continually to asking me to reach out to Drew. We've been friends for a long time, and I've always had my heart for you, man. And then, as I came to God, he was, wanted to do it together. So
yeah, amen.
Anyways, I'm gonna go cry in the bathroom. I'm gonna go sob.
All right, well, let's close this out. Another episode. Please reach out to us if you want to share your story. Here's the platform for it, and we want you to share it so people can gain from it and hear about how God's working in your life.
Email us at onestorypodcast@gmail.com. You can reach Drew at ddaily34 on Instagram. You can reach me at isaac.lebrija on Instagram. And until next time, open your eyes, listen closely, soften your heart, and see how God reveals himself to you.